What is up, guys? Super excited today. I have an amazing guest and somebody that I had personally had a connection with through her podcasts. We all find these podcasts, and I know each of you that listen to this show same way. And this is intriguing and I think very interesting. Kat, and so before I introduce you, I want to go through this. So a lot of people know I've been going through this problem since June with leg and an infection and all kinds of stuff, whatever. Had surgeries and laying in bed. And one night I had gotten a text in the middle of the night, and I'm a chief marketing officer with a tech company. And so with a tech company, you're always trying to grab $1 million here from a VC and investor and trying to get $500,000 here. There's always like trying to put the money together. And so money's the thing, like every startup is trying to get money. And so we had a situation after Silicon Valley Bank blew up here. We had a big bank blew up, and that was mostly with all the venture capitalists. And so there was like this scarcity of money feeling. And tech companies were just going out of business real rapidly, like within a month or two, because, they have a burn rate, and that burn rate is a certain amount each month, and so are they having to lay off a ton of people? Facebook laid off a bunch of people, Meta, Google laid off a ton of people. And so I'm in bed, can't sleep, in mass amounts of pain, had took like 8 Tylenol. I don't remember how much, and I'm sitting there and I get this text in the middle of the night about the money situation. And then I'm just on Instagram because I can't sleep. And I was on Instagram and I ran across a post that you had posted about money blocks. And it was interesting. 3:15 in the morning, I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn it. This is like, it was nailing me so hard. Like, I for some, I have a scarcity mindset right now. I'm not allowing my relate. And then you talked about relationship with what you view work as. And then I'm like, well, I have a super dysfunctional relationship. So Kat, I want to get into, and I know you've got a crazy past and all that, and we'll get into a little bit of that, which is really cool. I love that. But you have 2 books. I encourage people right now, pause this thing and go to Amazon and buy both: Magic Source Codes and Money Magic. So, and you've got a 3rd and 4th book we were talking about before this. So do that. And then also you have a free group called Flow Protocols on Facebook, right?
Yeah, that's right. And also, I just want to point out how it was the algorithm that knew you needed to come across that post. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. But so what? Now you also have because I've on your email list and I've been getting your emails. What is the you also have a program that people can subscribe to, like coaching?
Yeah, sometimes I run workshops. So I do have one about to start October 23rd, which is Brand Alchemy, the energetics of brand magnetism. So a lot of what you heard me talk about on that podcast was about energetics, relationship dynamics that we hold within ourselves and our business or our careers, right? And how these affect the flow of money.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really, really appreciated is, it's not like the way that you talk and the way that you write. It's like real pointed in a good way. It's not, it's not like stuff that's like so foo-foo or so out there, and I've noticed that, and that's kind of one of my pet peeves. I probably need to do some shadow work on that, but it's like, where are they getting this from? Where did this come from? Where you kind of take what you did in the real world, real life. I mean, you built a large company, and maybe you can share that, and so that we can get into this relationship with work. But in the beginning, you're a high school dropout. You have no interest in math, but yet you do an 8-figure business. And I'm a chief marketing officer. So I do advertising. You do an 8-figure business in Facebook ads. Like, what is that about?
Yeah, it was wild. And it happened so fast. And the biggest shift happened because I'd been in business before and I've had a lot of failures in my business career. But the single biggest shift was when I started to open myself up to the concept of mindset, how my own thoughts and perspectives that I hold impact the outcome. And yeah, it just grew so fast. But towards the end of that company, at one stage, I was really like, it was my jam. Facebook ads, helping agency owners grow. I lived it. I breathed it. I loved it every single day until it wasn't. And then like, I just wasn't that excited about doing what I was doing anymore or caring about staying across what Facebook was doing with the algorithm that day. But I wasn't brave enough to change things or walk away because it was doing so well and believing myself kind of trapped and stuck in that situation. And eventually it was like a really deep depression that took me out of that company because it became like a situation between life or death. And on the back of that is when I started to understand the energetics of like why the mindset stuff had worked so well in that company. Like just the whole experience I'm in gratitude for because it did teach me so much about money, about receiving, about, like literally the point of life is to feel good. It's really that simple, but it's that hard.
Why do you think? So, as someone that has battled depression for a long time, why do you think? And I think a lot of spiritual people, it's funny, are empaths, have are introverts. That we all got all these labels for it. Why do you think the money was good? So you're able to buy what you want for the most part, probably. I mean, within reason, I would imagine. So why do you think the depression hit when someone from the outside would view your life as being perfect?
Because I outgrew my shell and I believed myself trapped in it. And so by default, that meant that I started to put conditions over my well-being. And one way or another, life was going to teach me it doesn't work that way. Yeah.
And then you fall into depression, and then through your company, because I heard you in a podcast where you're talking about this, and then from there, now this 8-figure company, I mean, probably only 1% of people that are make online companies. Everybody wants to do this. Like literally everybody. There's courses on this. I mean, you can go online, hundreds of podcasts
I
on
love
this.
it.
There's ways to make funnels, all this
And they
stuff.
should.
How did you
Yeah.
stand out above everybody else?
Because when I was in that company, the relationship that I had with my business was one where it was like deeply nurturing, safe, and fulfilling. It wasn't like I wasn't out to make transactions and make the money that I made. I was doing what I was doing because I really fucking loved to do what I was doing because I'd figured out a way to create something that was deeply nurturing for me. The thing is, like, nothing is ever static for life. Everything is in flux, everything is in motion. We're always growing, we're always transforming. And what was once deeply fulfilling was no longer that anymore for me. And the solution was always that conscious transformation of like, okay, let's do what feels good. But I had to learn the lesson that like, you're never trapped by money. You're never trapped by like external conditions, like relationships. That's a complete illusion. And you're either going to decide that outwardly and make the shift to follow the things that actually excite you, despite the fact that it's a big unknown and you have no fucking idea how it's going to work, and get
Yeah.
back into that kind of relationship with your business, because that was the secret ingredient.
So that's what really got me whenever I began to listen to you is my relationship with business. I've always done well, whatever I decide to do. If I half-ass something, I can usually kind of do well. If I really put my mind into something, I can do really well. But I've
Yeah.
always felt like one, I've never been good enough. And number two, I always felt like my work was kind of, I'm always having to defend myself. I'm always having to prove myself. It seemed like a taskmaster, an evil. My work seemed, it was negative. It depressed me, but I'm a workaholic too. So there's
Yeah.
like this weird, this is what resonated with what you were saying. There's like this weird um thing that happens to me. So I always think people are against me when I'm at work, you know. And so when I began to listen to you and you begin to talk about how's your relationship with work, I mean, you just talk about it being safe, you know, like, and I'm working on that, but it was like, what is that? But I also got my identity in work too. So it's really weird,
Yeah.
you
So
know.
you're going to have to, like, if you want to go to the next level of yourself, you're going to have to pattern interrupt that. Either you're going to walk away from a situation that doesn't make you feel safe anymore because you simply cannot shift that sense of unsafety. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, I like it.
Or you're going to have to figure out a way to feel safe. And I would say, like, usually when we feel like we're being judged by people, or we're feeling like others can harm, we have to look at our own behaviors, because it's all a reflection of us, right? So where in your life are you judging others and harming others? And that could actually be you, like a really
Mm.
big relationship that you have in your life, right? Yeah. Like
Yeah, that's
we,
interesting. So do you view like the work relationship, and I know the answer, but I want you to share it with our audience. How do you view the work relationship like a relationship with, you know, a partner or something like that?
yeah, I think like it's even bigger than that, because if you think about it, most people spend 8 hours at work. A lot of entrepreneurs spend a lot more time in their business, you know? And it's almost like glorified to some extent. Like, I don't work weekends and I work 60-hour work weeks. So you're probably spending more like conscious aware, like time in wakefulness with your business than, or your career, than you are with your spouse or your children. So
Mm.
I'd say you're spending more time with that dynamic of your life, energy, focus, time, than second to the one that the relationship you're spending with yourself. Yeah.
So, and I know you talk about this in Money Magic, and I kind of want to start going in this direction because I think this will help a ton of people. So I was homeless, and then I got to the point where I wasn't homeless anymore, and then I'm considered what people would think successful, you know, same as you or whatever. But um, I'm always resisting money. I'm always, even though I work really hard to get it, but I always feel like it has to be really hard to get it,
Oh
and I have to work
yeah.
really hard.
Oh yeah.
And I know you talk about this in your book, but like this resistance to receiving money.
Yeah, for sure. That's like one of the biggest narratives in our society. And I will say that unraveling that belief was harder for me to do than the belief of I can actually even make money. When I made the jump from making money to like creating an ease with it that didn't have this like always on, always busy to do list, like all the time energy behind it, was really difficult to let go of, because my mind the whole time was telling me like the house of cards is going to fall down, like you
Mm,
got to be
yes.
busy, like what are you doing, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's like a really, really common narrative to have. And I think the biggest like things that you can do to really help you shift that voice in your head is, a, like, we're super tribal individuals. Like, we're deeply social creatures, and like the gang determines the crime oftentimes. So if you find people who have normalized receiving with ease, it definitely does things to your brain. It like influences you through and through. And also like making rituals of like teaching yourself, because that's essentially what all just needs to happen, is like you have to just teach yourself what it feels like to receive with ease. And you can start in really small, easy ways, like making a ritual and celebrating every time you find a penny on the sidewalk, or like you didn't have to do anything for that penny. That was super easy. It's a penny, but you compound it by focusing on like that experience actually existing in your
Yes, I
reality,
like
you
that.
know?
So I get where you're going with that. And when it comes to, can you explain to everyone like money blocks? And like I said, you wrote this in your book, Money Magic, but and then maybe a personal experience or something, maybe story with the money block.
Yeah. So when I started my newest company, Flow Protocols, back in 2021, I spent a long time comparing my current revenues to the revenues that I had made in my last company, which had been really like crazy and had come on really strong. It was like I was frustrated because I knew that I was capable of hitting those targets. I knew that I had like muscle memory of it almost. But I was like, what is the missing piece? Like, what am I doing wrong here? What's happening? And inadvertently, in that witch hunt, I sent myself into a lot of like focusing, getting caught on the how in my business and like with money, especially. Like that there's something inherently missing from me that allows me to receive at capacities that surpass those that I've experienced before, you know?
That's so
And
good. That how. That's what everybody
yeah.
does. Everybody focuses on the how.
Right. We, because we do this because a lot of us have made money the end game. Like, money is the condition that determines our well-being. And for some people, it's love. Like, they're not going to love themselves or life until someone else loves them, you know? But for most of the world, we share this common like condition over our states of well-being, which is money. So we make money the end game. It alters all our behaviors and actions, and any time that we do that, it doesn't go the way we want.
And then that creates a money block.
For sure. Yeah, because there's no separation between you and money, right?
Right.
You're literally money because you invented in your mind. It's a human construct and you have an imagination and value. So money is just value, right? That's just, I think everyone would agree on that.
Right.
Economicists and finance people, it's value. It's an exchange. It represents an exchange of value. What do we value? What do humans value? Why do we buy, trade, barter, give our children away? Because we're trying to feel a little bit fucking better.
Right.
Like, we're trying to expand a green within ourselves. So value is an expansion of greens. So the key to money, the energetics of money, is understanding that, hey, you are money. There's like literally no separation or condition existing over your ability to receive money. You could have the most fucked up past. Like, you could be heartbroken right now. Like, the only condition that exists is that you are in affinity with this idea that you get to receive money, right?
Yeah, that's so good. You talk about being in infinity, and especially
Mm-hmm.
with desires. Can you go into like being in infinity or what is it like more than alignment? What is that? What when you say the word affinity, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So when I say affinity, I mean that when you think about this thing or when you're acting in this thing, you're doing it from like a green essentially within yourself. Love, admiration, trust, joy. You're in affinity. You have positive like experience with this relationship, this dynamic that exists in your life. Most people don't have that with money, even though they make money the end game. And so, more than anything, they should be in affinity with it. More than anything else, if that's their main
Right.
end game, it's actually the opposite that happens. Most people feel really frustrated, hopeless, anxious when they think about money or their desires. So, to be in affinity with your desires is to be able to think about them in a way that expands and energizes you. If you're thinking about them in a way where it's like you feel depleted, you're comparing yourself and you're feeling more hopeless than before, or you're frustrated by your progress, or you're thinking there's something missing from you, right? Or you're comparing yourself, like those are all examples of being out of affinity with that relationship.
So me having a money problem automatically affects my affinity with money. So if I say,
Yeah,
oh,
because if you wouldn't be saying, if you were in affinity, first of all, you would never be saying you had a money problem.
Right.
Because you cannot, how can you be perceptive of a problem? It's like, let's say your money is a girlfriend, okay? And this is what you were saying to me about her.
Right. That makes sense.
It's like, the thing is, this is not just your typical girlfriend. This is a magical dragon genie girlfriend that expands your experience and your ability to like help and impact others and express yourself, right? She can never walk away because she's actually you. And you are telling me about how she has these problems and you're focused on it that way. Is this relationship going to go well?
Yeah, that's so good.
Are you going to shrink her? Or are you going to help her like thrive, with you?
That's good. So how do we, or how do you suggest we begin to change our actions or our vocabulary to better align to to
Yeah.
have infinity with money?
Well, there's two like main steps. The first one is you have to have the intention. To me, that's what represents the divine feminine. Because like the DNA, we were talking about, it's like one strand provided by your mother, one strand by your father, and they come together, the source code of life. And it's like the balance of the feminine and masculine. That's how you make real magic happen, when you have integrity between these two forces. So the first step is always to get really clear on your intention and to actually like stop making money the end game or material things the end game. You want those things because you ultimately believe they're going to expand a sense of well-being within yourself. So go right to the root of that, like identify what it is you're trying to feel in your life. And if you're not sure, just look at the reds that you're experiencing. It'll be the polar opposite. If you're feeling anxious, you want play and courage. If you're feeling unfulfilled, you want fulfillment. If you're feeling trapped, you want freedom. And so that's the first step, is getting like really clear. And then to help you with this, you intentionally engage the divine masculine of your actions, your behaviors, the way you talk. So if you have money coming into your life, you should be behaving, talking, and acting the way you would if it wasn't a problem in your life, if it was actually a nurturing relationship of your life.
So
When you
is the
spend
divine
money,
masculine,
you do the same thing, like little
right?
things. You engage your behaviors in those ways, how you spend money. Can you intentionally, next time you go to the grocery store, as you pay your card, feel into a moment of gratitude, even for 30 seconds, and just be like, wow, I have money to pay for this. And look at all these soy milk options I have and all this abundance. I think you can do that exercise, right? It's like literally little things like that will start to get everything working in your favor, and it will become easier and easier to step into like the bigger moves, the bigger actions that need to be taken. You'll be supported through that. But for sure, if you're intending freedom for yourself, and you're intending more flow, more time, more money for yourself. And then every day, what you're actually doing is you're spending an enormous amount of time in overwhelm, in burnout, in frustration, and feelings of stagnation. You cannot act surprised at the end of this that you're not getting anywhere with this,
Yeah,
So
that's good.
you're always going to be the first one that makes the move in this relationship. Like the money will never be the condition that's going to give you that well-being. That's a fallacy. I had a lot of money and I was about to kill myself. You will get to the top of the mountain and realize like happiness is always a peak away, you know?
So you mentioned the divine masculine. How is that? How does that play, like the feminine and the masculine play with overcoming money blocks?
Because it's like the feminine of your intention, your imagination, your visualization. When you get really clear about what you intend for yourself and you activate that feminine, what's going to happen, by the way, is like, regardless if you shift your actions, once you start engaging your intentions in such a manner with such clarity where you're repetitively reviewing them on a daily basis, you'll set the cogs in motion in the universe to get you there. And even if you don't have the courage or the clarity or the willingness to align your actions, I promise you, like, you're going to get supported. And usually it's going to come through the catalyst of chaos, right? Like we talked about, it's like such a good mechanism of transformation and change. So yeah, it's
No,
I don't
that's
know if
awesome.
this is.
So, I understand the concept of you are money and how you talk about that. Uh, I want to kind of shift into work, if you don't mind, a little bit. Freedom and flow. So obviously, you were making money, and if money's the end goal, you had made it. But then it's like suicidal thoughts once I made it. So obviously, that's not the answer. Everybody here is like, well, I want that to be the answer. But I mean, we have somebody right before us right now. If you're listening, I encourage you to hop on YouTube and look. But I mean, Kat's like right here saying, "Hey, I was super successful, top 1%. Not very many people make a lot of money off of Facebook ads that do that. They make more money off, maybe selling a course or something like that. But you were actually helping. You were helping a ton of people because you're helping agencies, right? And those agencies had so." I want to kind of get into freedom with your business because I had heard you on your podcast where you're talking about, you were making all this money, but then you had all these employees and then you had all this. And I think we want money, but we don't understand freedom. Can you kind of go into that a little bit with your personal life on that?
Yeah. So for most people, the desire to want freedom is to, like, we say time, but really, when you look at what happens to people who retire late in their senior years, is they go into apathy if they don't have something to do. Like, we're supposed to be creating, we're supposed to be applying ourselves in our physical reality in one mechanism or another. And so, what we really want when we're saying we want freedom is like that time. But we don't really want time. We want the time so we can do the things we want to fucking do.
Right.
Right? That's why we want the time. We want to do the things we want to do. So we bypass all of that and we go and do the things that we want to do in our lives, like today, because there's no separation between you and money. You are money. And would you not say it's just common sense that when you're honoring yourself in such a way, you value yourself a lot more, and when you're expanding the greens in yourself, you're able to expand the greens in other people so much more? Is this not common sense? You know?
Yeah,
And if
100%.
money is a representation of a value exchange, do you not have so much fucking value when you're honoring the things that you want to do? Now, the thing here is that the things that you want to do don't always make a lot of fucking sense, you know?
100%.
And sometimes they have nothing to do with business or your current business. And so your rational mind is going to really like set off some red alarms. It's not going to be happy one bit. It's going to tell you like you're crazy, you have ADHD, you need to focus, like. So that's really the hardest thing. And yeah, it takes a lot of courage to be able to operate this way in your business, because the narrative that is the most prevalent in our society around money and business, especially, is that it is something that you're sacrificing yourself for, and it
Mhm.
should feel hard to do.
Right.
It's a vibration that's different to love. So this has been the experience of a lot of previous generations for sure. But I will counter and say, like, I don't, like, does it have to be true? No, that's actually not like my experience of it at all. I have found that I'm able to have, a business that just nurtures me so deeply. And it is like without more time input, I'm doing figures that would, make a lot of people go, what the hell is happening here? Is she selling drugs or something? Yeah.
You're selling. It makes us better.
So, yeah, and I've seen it with a lot of other people, and it just makes sense. It's like when your cup is depleted, do you have a lot of value to give? No. If you don't have a lot of value to give, are you going to make a lot of money? No, probably not, because money represents value. So, yeah.
Do you think that when it comes to, and we'll get into flow, but I want to focus on this. So people are sacrificing, they're giving themselves to this abusive feeling that they have of money. And so they have to sacrifice all their time, work 12, 15-hour days. Or you have the opposite of that, where people don't have enough self-worth, where they're just like, screw it, I'll get money from the government. I'll just sit, on the couch and watch Netflix all day. And so you have like the overly motivated people and the under motivated people, and but both of them seem like they're coming from kind of the same place, even though they would despise each other. The person that's sitting in the apartment not making enough money hates the billionaire, and the billionaire hates the person that's just sitting around not working. So when you look at that, and I like what you said, money is is it different than love? No, of course not. And especially if you are money, then you are love. So
Right.
I mean, so that would, but how does somebody take a passion that they have or something that they want to do and create a business or monetize it? Or you hear that all the time, and it always sounds good, and people try stuff, and they, like you said earlier, you failed a bunch of times. How do they do that? How do they start off right with a great attitude?
Yeah. So, same way that I was sharing about how you attract money, you set the intention of what you desire. You begin to actively perceive all the little tiny ways in which it is growing, going towards what you want. And then you engage your actions and behaviors. And it could be even tiny steps like researching online, a group that might be talking about this thing that you're wanting to launch with your business. It could be just dedicating an hour a day and rewarding yourself a little, somehow for just being in that activity or creating that hobby. It's the same way that you're attracting money into your life. And again, as I said, like being around influences, people who are doing that, who have normalized that, I think I cannot like under stress that enough, because the rational mind is very, very strong. And when you're going to take a risk and step into an unknown, like it takes a lot of fucking courage. It is so much easier to do nothing about your life and keep doing the shit that feels uncomfortable. So much easier. And then look back and be like, oh, I don't know why it didn't work, right? Than to actually like follow the things that make you feel like flow, that are compulsion to your soul. You need a lot of courage. So you seek out that vibration of courage in small ways in your life. You do things that are like a little bit uncomfortable, but that you can manage. Like you try a new salsa class, or you go on a dating app. I don't know, little things that's like, okay, it's not a big deal. You overcame it. And you'll begin to teach yourself the vibration of courage, and it will begin to overflow and meet you at the areas of your life where you do need to kind of push yourself off a cliff and just trust that it's going to fucking work for you, you know?
That's so good. And you mentioned flow. And like I said, you just mentioned if you're on, if you got to take an hour or whatever, make sure everybody goes to your Facebook group. They can do an hour of study on that, right? On the flow protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when you talk about flow, and we were talking about this off air about you writing books and being in flow, and you were in flow in the beginning with your company, your Facebook company. What does flow look like to you, and how does flow relate with money and business? And it's like there's been tons of books written about flow and all that stuff, but from a spiritual perspective, what is it? How do you define it?
Oh, I love this question. I love flow. Flow is when you're in an autotelic state, like you're playing with time,
Mm.
basically. You're like fully in the present moment. There's no past, there's no future. And you can lose yourself in this space for hours. And it energizes you. It feels really good to do. It's like a compulsion. You're in the present moment. So it's like the experience is chemically not undifferent to like a morphine shot or something, you know? That's how I define flow. Now, there's a lot of different things that get us into that state. And again, not all of them are related to business. Some of them could be like recently, I needed courage in my life, and I was seeking an expansion of flow. So I picked up a chainsaw because a big tree in my yard had fallen down. And I had a relationship with this tree. It sounds stupid to say, but like I love this tree. And I
Mm.
was like, I'm going to chop it down myself. And everyone was telling me, Kat, don't do it. You're going to cut yourself. Like you're going to die, basically. And because it's like this big gas thing. And I learned a lot of steep lessons, but I was in deep, deep flow. And that whole process like cascaded the growth on my business. And it's always been my experience of it, even in Money Magic, when I talk about how I wasn't pursuing the things that actually felt good to me. And so all this chaos was showing up around me, kind of like as roadblocks to just be like, pivot, go this way. And the moment I started to write, things just like unraveled, things grew, things prospered. We were in affluence,
That's amazing. Yeah, and something that's scary, like getting a chainsaw out. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it scared me
I've done
too.
it, but I was kind of raised around them. But yeah, there's no guard on it or anything like that. It's just laid.
Yeah. But it was so fun, like the power of
Yeah, the
it,
power. Yeah.
and like it did feel scary. So I was definitely in my space of courage with it, and I
Did you
learned that
post
you
pictures
should.
of this? Do you have
Yeah,
like
I did.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
But like in flow, so you obviously in flow, then you're obviously in flow when you're writing books, and in your new business you're in flow, or I don't know how old it is, but the other business that you're doing now. What would you say, especially if somebody's out there and they're wanting to, and I know you're talking about these steps of courage and they're like, yep, I'm going to work on this, I'm going to do this. How do they take the kind of the leap? Like, do you give yourself time? Do you give yourself a time when you're going to quit work? The job that you hate? Like, how long did that take you? Did you just decide one day, like, this is crazy, I'm done? Like, how did you mentally handle that?
I think like the first step is just ask yourself for help.
Mm.
Because if you're like stuck in the how right now, you're stuck in the how.
Yes,
And
100%.
the how doesn't matter. It's like you just gotta step out of like that part of it and remind yourself that everything is like serving you ultimately. It's all working out in your favor.
That's hard to believe, though, like, really, especially if something bad happens in your life.
Yeah, for sure. But as we said, we are the protagonists of our story. And, I'm sorry to say, but the narratives where there's no chaos or challenges or insurmountable defeats that the protagonist must face are kind of boring as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that those people that are experiencing life on that edge are almost spiritually advanced. They're like advanced spiritual motherfuckers. Like they
Mm-hmm.
got, because they're going to transform people's lives. They will have the capacity to transform a lot of people's lives because they have that story to tell, which is what compels us. That's what we're doing with our lives. So, yeah, it fucking burns. It sucks. But it's always just a lesson of finding our own hand, ultimately.
I love that. Yeah, it's always that burning part of alchemy that creates the
Yeah.
purification.
So you recognize your vibrational being, but you're also in a physical body. Okay, let's play with the vibrational, the intention. Let's fucking go there every day, even if it's 10 minutes a day. Let's dedicate this. And then you also see if you can, in small ways, mirror your actions to those intentions. And you're going to start to experience like so much more support to help you step into those next layers. It doesn't take much to get things going. Because the truth is, like, you have an imagination, which is a superpower, and it's working against you if you're focused on problems or money blocks or things that aren't working. You're fixating on that. If everything is essentially mirroring you, if money is a result of the behaviors, actions, words, and things that you do, which in turn is the result of your thoughts and perspectives and beliefs that you hold, then you're the one who's going to have to take that first step. It's not going to be money. That's never going to be the condition.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want you to share a little bit about your community and all the things you got going on. I know you've got 2 books out. Like I said, everybody should buy those. They're awesome. And you can go on Amazon, look up magic source codes, and then Money Magic. And you've got a 3rd and 4th book, you said you're working on.
maybe
So that's,
maybe not a fourth. We'll see.
but that's awesome. You've done that in 2 years. Like, you've
Yeah,
been in
it's
like super flow.
crazy.
You
I'm
go
like,
from, yeah. How does
yeah.
that work?
Oh, and I'm not gonna lie, by the way, for people listening this and like, oh, this spiritual bitch always in flow. Like, no, there's periods where I definitely lose my flow. I think it's so much easier to advise other people than yourself half the time.
Right.
Like most of
100%.
the time we're blind to our own fucking bullshit. And
Mhm.
but what I will say is like the more I'm opening myself up to alchemy and these concepts, it feels like the chaos and the transformations, like they just transmute like a lot faster. Like what used to
Yes.
take years is now like there's an awareness gain, and then it's like pff, sometimes a band-aid gets ripped off, It's not that I'm always in flow, but I have made it a new value in my life to prioritize this flow and to prioritize the relationships that I hold in my life as those that help me enter states of flow, well being, energizing me. And if the relationship with your money doesn't feel like that right now, or the relationship with your business or career doesn't feel like that, you can't be surprised when those things aren't working out.
Yeah,
And
100%.
and it's not going to be your business that's going to change it. Your clients are not going to email you tomorrow and go like, "Hey, we want you to have more time off. You look tired.
Right.
Go sleep. Don't look at our ad campaigns." It's not going to happen.
100%. Yeah.
And if you're
So,
waiting for money, you're waiting on your reflection. Like it doesn't make sense.
that's
If you're
good.
waiting a long time. Yeah.
That's good.
So
So
you
how
get
would
into a good fucking relationship with it, like you would in any human relationship. How do you foster a strong human relationship? You show up in gratitude. You show up in appreciation. You show up with play, right? Instead of showing up in your business going, how can I make money today? How can I get a new client in the door? Ask yourself, how can my business and I enter a state of play or flow or gratitude together
Mm,
today? And that's how you do that with your money. Yeah.
I'm writing notes down. I've been writing notes down the whole time. This is so good. I appreciate this. Like I said, this helped me tremendously. And I shared it
Yeah,
with my
it's wild how
CEO.
much this works, by the way. It's like
Yeah.
crazy that we're not
We're on a
taught this
podcast, by the
shit
way.
like from a young age. It's like you literally get an affinity with it, and your world will change. And you still get to be an asshole without your shit figured out, with all the traumas and heartbreak and past histories, like, and faults and flaws, and you still get to receive. Like, that's a wild idea.
Yeah, that's a wild idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool, and I want to close out, and I want us to get into all the materials that you have, not just the books. But like just me sharing your podcast, I've shared it with a ton of people, sharing it now. I shared it with my trainer at the gym,
Oh,
for his
cool. Thank
business.
you.
Yeah, and my CEO,
I
like a bunch of
appreciate
different people.
that.
So, what other programs and what things do you have available right now for people?
Yeah, the main ones are my books. So if you go to my website, Cat Howell, you can find either book there. And then, as I said, I sometimes run workshops, but
And you have
I
one.
don't.
I've been getting emails. Do you have one going on now or coming up?
Yes, yeah. October 23rd, it kicks off Brand Alchemy. So that
Yeah,
one
and
is
it's like
like, it's like magical rituals to work at the energetic level, like this relationship with your business, getting in step that way with your business, and also with the money, the client wins, the results without depleting from your own cup. And
and what's
it's
wild is
funny. Huh?
oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
go.
Sorry. No, I was just saying your emails, you put so much content on your emails. Like the
Do
leads
I?
one. Yeah, the leads one that you had, just clients and leads or whatever that you just did.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah,
9 things or something, or I
yeah,
forgot what it was, the 9 magical things or whatever.
yeah.
With
To
but I mean,
magnetism.
it was
Yeah.
long. That was a long email. I'm like, I should be paying for this if I'm reading this, So how do people get on your email list? Is it on your website?
I don't think so. Well, maybe if they subscribe, if you subscribe to the free meditations, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a good question, though. There's like not overtly a way right now.
Yeah, that's it. That's awesome because
Do the
you're basically
meditation.
outlining the course in each email. Seems like,
Yeah, with that, yep. The
and then your
brand
podcast
alchemy.
kind of
Yeah,
goes. Each episode kind of goes along with it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's awesome that you're listening and sharing it with your friends. And
Yeah. And so I encourage everybody, we have a
I
pretty
love
good
it.
sized audience. So I encourage everybody to get involved and go to your website, cathowell.com. Well, cool. It's such a pleasure talking with you. And I love talking to people that's personally impacted me. I wrote a ton of notes down.
Oh,
So I have a ton
cool.
here. So I'm going to go through this and study this, and I'll email you in a couple months and let you know on
Yes,
these things that I'm
please.
working on. Cause
Yeah.
this is a shift that I need to work on in my life. So this is a calling
Yeah.
for me to do now. So it's awesome. So I appreciate you, Cal, and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.